With the beginning of the game era, piracy has become one of the most important problems for developers, so every year their defenses get stronger and stronger. But what if I told you that piracy is a necessity? I spent 2 weeks researching a lot of stories from the industry, and I realized that there are many cases where piracy helps developers and players. Today I'm going to tell you a story about how piracy saves video games. When the creators of the iconic Half-Life series announced that they were opening the world's first digital game store, one of the arguments in their favor was the availability and safety of purchased games. They say that everything, that entire Steam, is not threatened by the danger familiar to all owners of disc editions. Digital copies cannot be scratched, broken or lost. Once purchased games remain in the library forever, and the possibility of buying any PC game does not depend on the number of boxes. There are enough for everyone, and only with time it becomes clear that with all the advantages of Steam and its followers, no digital store can become a universal library of the game industry. A lot of games are disappearing all the time, and we're not just talking about old games that were released in 1,000 copies and have long since been forgotten even by their creators. A number of well-known and even high-profile projects have long since moved into the legal and available category, and even good old games, which was originally conceived as a portal for the revival of old games, often announces another approach of its assortment. Imagine the situation: you want to play your favorite childhood game, Need for Speed Most Wanted, but it cannot be bought legally in Steam or good old games. The only place where you can find it is on the pirate sites. In May 2021, EA Games announced that 5 Need for Speed games were finally obsolete. The creators of the series took them off the market. The same fate befell Fable, Dirt and Grid games. It happens all the time. Most recently, players were denied access to the original Prey and Tron Revolution. Nearly 1,000 games from indie developers of varying quality have been disappeared from the store. And if you think this only applies to offline games, you're wrong. There is a story floating around the internet about a bunch of Halo 2 fans who wouldn't turn off their consoles for several years in order to continue playing online, and even after Xbox Live support was discontinued on their consoles. This illustrates a case where not only developers but also platform owners don't care about gamers if they don't make a profit. A similar story happened with classical World of Warcraft. For a long time the company didn't pay attention to fans who don't really like the upgrades. They went to fail illegal servers, but the studio banned them hard. For example, in 2016 at their request, Nostalrus with 150,000 active accounts was closed. 5 years ago, Blizzard offered an alternative in the form of World of Warcraft Classic. But how long did it take? And if it wasn't for the pirate servers, Blizzard probably wouldn't have seen the needs of such a place. But what surprises me the most is when games disappear from the shelves for more bizarre reasons. For example, the horror game Devotion was removed from everywhere right after Winnie the Pooh mashup was found on the board. It seemed silly, but the point is that the image clearly linked the hero of Children's Tales to the current leader of China, and that's something China doesn't like. They make sure that no image defaming the leader gets into the media. The result? A good game Devotion cannot be found legally, but the pirates did their best to preserve the legacy of Chinese game making. Actually, preserving the legacy isn't just a words, it's a pirate philosophy. Did you know that 87% of games released before 2010 can only be found on pirate sites? That's no joke. The statistic was provided by the Video Game History Foundation. The guy studied 4,000 classic games released in the US, and after a long analysis came to the conclusion that the situation is a stalemate. The guys from the foundation themselves recognized that each project has cultural significance in terms of studying the history of video games. Such neglect simply ruins the legacy that people have built, and to get in touch with that legacy, you either have to spend thousands of dollars on old console with games, or you have to go in a pirate shop. There are times where piracy not only want to preserve the legacy, but also add to the glory of amazing games from years past. They make mods, remasters and improve games. One of such games was Metroid 2, which a divided fan Agassi decided to modernize in 2006. But after he finished the work in 2016, Nintendo approached him and asked him to remove everything, otherwise a court ban. So you see, a man has been writing a remake of your game for 10 years, updating the graphics, adding levels, fixing control issues, calling it by its name, which clearly points to the original source and not claiming original authorship, and you take it and tell him to shut up. Disgusting. Another thing you can't do without the help of pirates is a game optimization. I like the case of Knights of the Old Republic 2. When it first came out, it was almost unplayable. Despite a great story and memorable characters, it was impossible to enjoy Obsidian's brainchild. Then the fans come to rescue. There are unofficial patches, revisions, and re-releases restored cut content, fixed bugs and improved FPS. There were examples of shitty releases then, and there are now. Speaking of optimization, it also be noted that popular Denuvo protection lowers the CPU, so the protection reduces the frame rate of the game. This is especially noticeable at release when the drops reach several dozen of frames, but even fully patched versions suffer from anti-piracy protection. For example, Max from the creators of Just Cause, not bad but fully forgotten by many people project, fully complete game with dynamic chases where it is necessary that the image was smooth, according to the result of the test conducted by the blogger Overlord, that average increase in FPS in Mad Max without protection 5-7 frames is the same as the scandalous Mass Effect Andromeda. The average increase is 3-5 frames, but now the FPS does not fall below 60, but performance is not the only thing that got worse with Denuvo. The pirate shield increases the load almost 4 times. Yes, don't be surprised. We learned about this detail relevantly recently in May 2023. Then after testing Borderlands 3, Doom Eternal, Ace Combat 7, Ghostwire Tokyo and the last 2 parts of Tomb Raider, it turned out that on the same configuration, the game slot much faster without the anti-piracy utility. Ghostwire gives the base roll. With Denuvo it takes 200 seconds to start and without it 54 seconds. What do you think of the result? Piracy helps games work better in any way, but they are still feared because they cause publishers to lose profit. And that's actually true. Some of the games really do die as soon as they are uploaded to torrents. Such cases are rarely publicized because the projects are very small, but still, according to Jason Schreier's book Press Reset, such situations are not rare, but even here things are not so clear-cut. A large numbers of people download games from pirate sites and then buy a copy to support the developer. Those people who were not sure about your game become fans after playing it. Thanks to piracy, the sales of the game increased. I have a good story about this. The other day I was scrolling through Twitter and I found the most cryptic tweet ever. It basically said, "Check out, I'm releasing my game on Steam." Okay, good old games, of course. And the torrent pirate version. What? You heard it right, these developers putting this game on pirate sites. At first I thought it was some kind of demo or prank. Many developers have released pirate copies of their games with hidden features designed to punish players. You've probably seen Game Dev Tycoon, for example, which forces you to shut down your in-game store due to piracy, truly the greatest irony in modern art. But in a reply to his tweet, the developers emphasized that there are no strings attached. He's releasing the entire game for free and even with some additional cosmetic elements exclusive to the pirate version. Something I've never seen before, probably for obvious reasons. But here's the thing, it turned out to be a great marketing move that the developer said was intentional. When asked why he did it, his logic was, people are going to pirate the game anyway, so why not use it as a PR opportunity? And it certainly worked. That's how encouraging piracy helped boost sales for the developers. Cutting to the chase, how do piracy save games? Well, in many ways. When publishers don't care, pirates come along and make it possible to download classic games. Hello, Most Wanted? When someone is too greedy and willing to satisfy the smoothness of the image, pirates come along and bring back FPS. Hello, Denuvo. If pirates like it, they make remakes, add-ons and mods for their favorite games, and sometimes that's encouraged. Hello, Valve. And sometimes it's not. Hello, Beacon. In general, piracy is very ambiguous thing. It's not always a desire to spite the developers, it's often a financial necessary. Games are getting more and more expensive, and now for AAA games you have to pay at least $60. But if I have an average salary in my country is less than 300, well, how not to think about piracy? And often the illegal acquisition of the title is the only way to play it. So it turns out that despite all the problems that piracy solves, it is still based on one ideology, the availability of video games. So now we have an interesting reversal of story. When pirates were clearly scum, now they are not quite scum. What do you think of the Walls of the Sea? Let me know in the comments. With you was Ikari. Please subscribe to my channel. Good luck and bye!